So we have on the line Jimmy Young, board member, Charities, Linda, Dean, Karen, Luke, and as board staff, Robin and myself. We do have somebody else who called in. Who just called?
Yeah, hi, it's Teresa with NHO.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
And board members, as I said Friday, we have New Housing Ohio with Scott and Teresa doing a little presentation at the beginning of our meeting, which is the first item on the agenda. So actually, if you could, I'll leave it up to you guys to mute yourself, except Scott and Teresa. And Scott, if you want to go ahead and start with a little summary of the project, please.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marissa. So, Marissa and I have been talking, I think, for quite some time about the system and the housing and some of the needs associated with that. And going back, gosh, maybe 13 years, over 13 years, we opened a couple group homes, and we did open a small apartment building. But we moved on and got a homeless shelter started, and then a recovery house. And one thing that I think that we've all figured out that's maybe missing from the continuum of housing options is an apartment building where people who are ready to move on from a group home, or ready to move on from a recovery house, or ready to move on from a temporary shelter situation, where they would have an apartment that they could go to. And so our discussions have centered around that for a while. And we found an 18 unit in Fostoria that's on the Seneca County side that we feel like we have a pretty good option to purchase price on. And we have the ability to get some grants where we can purchase the building with little to no debt, and which is going to be a way that we can make housing affordable to folks. So, and just to kind of explain how that works, affordable housing means that we cap the expenses to the resident at 30% of their income for rent and utilities, and that leaves money in their pocket to do the other things that they need to do. And this is a much cheaper option than group care living, and typically costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $15 a day versus upwards of $100 a day for group living. And so I think we all feel that this is something that's needed in our system. And we have various grant resources available to us, and we think we can do this, over the course of the next year. And make a long story short, it's an 18 unit building that we'd be purchasing for $800,000, and we would completely rehab it to where it's basically a brand new building. And that would cost another 1.2 million, 1.2 million. So we'd have a little bit over $2 million in the building, 90% of which would be through grants. And there'd be a small portion that we would finance through the bank to pay for the property. And the timeline is basically the end of November, early December, in about a 12-month period from then until the following, November, December. And, we've been working with Marcia to figure out how we could make this happen, and that kind of led to this phone call today. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. We are the thing that we've talked about for today is trying to come up with a mechanism to make the down payment so we can purchase the building within the time frame that we have a contract on the building, which would allow us to then apply for the rest of the grants to get the building.
Hey Scott, so you entered into a contract with the previous owner for NHO to close on the property by, can you give me the date again?
Yes, it's November 30th, but it may take until mid-December before we would actually, execute the deal. Just because, we've got to get the bank on board, which they're on board, but they've got a lot of hoops they have to jump through between now and then. So the contract says November 30th, but as long as we're moving in that direction, then we're confident that they would be fine with closing sometime in December.
And then the plan is to totally renovate the facility over the next 12-month period. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And
it would essentially be a brand new building.
And all these 18 units are individual apartments. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they will be
and they would
go ahead.
They would be made exclusively, available to folks living with mental illness or in recovery from addiction.
And can you mention a little bit of some of the grants you are hoping to then receive in 2021 to cover
Sure.
some of the purchase cost as well as the renovation cost?
Sure. One thing I'd like to do, just to ease your concern a little bit, is we've done dozens of these projects and we've used the same sources over and over. So this is something we've done many times. We're wrapping one up right now that's basically the exact same project, just in a different county. So we would anticipate sometime in the spring applying for somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000, $825,000 to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. We would apply at some point. Typically, if you get the OFA funding, which we have a good track record with, OMOS then follows up and anything that OFA funds, OMOS funds as well. And we are in, Marisha, obviously you can speak to this, we're in the preliminary funding for a grant for this project with OMOS, but they haven't, with COVID and everything, they haven't formally made that money available. But once OFA starts handing out their money, then I would anticipate OMOS being right behind that. And I think we put in a preliminary request to OMOS for $500,000, and then we already have a Ohio Finance Fund grant in the amount of $30,000. River Hills Bank has dedicated $350,000, and that leaves the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati, which we've gotten dozens of grants from them too. They're the last grant, so the way we do that, Marisha, is however much we need left is what we typically apply for. You can apply for up to $50,000 per unit, which would be $1.6 million, but I believe there's $1 million cap. Is that right, Teresa?
That's correct, yeah. They're capped
Okay.
$1 million.
So we're anticipating applying for we think we're going to need about $350,000 left when we apply to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Cincinnati, but we can apply for up to $1 million. So that's why in our conversation recently, Marisha, I said I wasn't really concerned about the OMOS funding, whether it comes through or not. We hope it would, but if it doesn't, we would just be asking for more from the Federal Home Loan Bank. But I'm confident that either way, it's gonna work out. So those are the resources, and like I said, we have a very good track record with all of those.
Scott, can you talk a little bit after we understand that the clients 30% of their income gonna pay towards these apartments? Can you talk a little bit about um, the difference for the subsidy and how you are planning to obtain that?
Sure. So the way these grants work is to be eligible for the grants, you have to guarantee that you will only charge the residents up to 30% of their income. So most of the folks that are currently living in our group homes or are in our mental health system have disability, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of I don't have the number offhand, but just say it's $700. Then 30% of that would go toward their rent and utilities. And then there's a small difference between what fair market rent is in a community, which is set by HUD, and the amount that they pay. So the typical resident, and Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably going to contribute somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $250 a month.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay. And the fair market rent for a one bedroom in Seneca County is it $375? Teresa?
No, it's higher than that. I don't have that number on the top of my head here. I will find that for you quickly here.
Okay. So, 400 or 425, 450. So there's a difference between what the resident pays and the fair market rent. And so that requires us to find subsidies for the building. And Mirsha and I have talked about how, and this is done in other mental health board areas, is typically the mental health board will start out the subsidy program with the intent of transitioning folks onto a more permanent subsidy. And so over the course of a few years down here in Warren and Clinton County, we went from having, about 125 apartments subsidized by the mental health board, and we were able to eliminate almost all of those subsidies by getting permanent federal subsidies. So the way I would anticipate this working is initially we would, the mental health board would, and again, maybe $10 a day at the most, probably more like $5 a day, would subsidize folks as they move in, and then we get them on an eligibility program to get a permanent subsidy. And the idea is that instead of living, 5 or 10 or 20 years in a very expensive group home, that they're able to live in a much cheaper supportive living environment in an apartment where they have more money in their pocket. So maybe if they want to get a job, they can get a car, they can afford, some other things. So because in a group home, typically 85% of their money is going to pay, for their facility. So this is
Scott,
a way to make it cheaper. Yes.
I just looked that up. I know HUD just released the 2021 fair market rent. I wanted to see if that had increased from 2020, and it did increase. It's now $594 for a one bedroom in Seneca County.
Okay. So $594. It has gone up pretty significantly over the past 10 years. So that would equate to about $10 a day on average, I would say, as a subsidy.
Board members, any of you guys have any questions for Scott or Teresa? Or do you guys need, maybe we went right into it right from the first second, which is fine. But do you guys have any questions?
I
I do. This is Karen. So $10 a day per unit. Is it a one-person unit, even though it's one bedroom, or two people could share it, or what?
Each person has their own apartment. So the idea is that you're promoting, more independent living with some support. But each person has their own apartment.
And that would mean there'd be 18 times $10 a day subsidy that you're looking at from the board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, but again, I would look at those subsidies as temporary, not permanent. There's several different resources that are available, for folks to get onto a subsidy program, and we've been really successful with getting those. It's just when a person initially moves in, it can be a challenge. But once the units are on board, then we can start applying for those subsidy programs. And those subsidy programs, and we have several subsidies that we've had for years. Once you get them, it's very difficult to lose them. And we get those, the way that would work is they would be site-based to the property. So once the subsidies are locked into the property, then whenever someone moves in, that subsidy is available to them.
When is the tentative time of move when a tenant will move in? What's your projection?
Say that again?
What's your projection for your first tenant to arrive?
I would think it could be as early as February 1st, because the plan is to rehab the units while folks are living there. And probably what we'll do is, and it'll take a little work because we'll have to have a couple units empty and kind of do one unit at a time and, help folks move, around. Because we'll be putting in all new kitchens and all new HVAC and things that really are going to, they would disrupt your living if you lived in the apartment. So we're going to have to keep a couple apartments empty and rotate folks around during the rehab.
Robin, you are muted.
Sorry. Scott, this is Robin. Mircha and I, along with Celinda Sugar, one of our board members who's joined us tonight, we participated in September in a virtual meeting where we had local stakeholders along with state stakeholders involved in the conversation. And the state people made reference to a new housing unit here to help deal with our housing crisis. However, after the meeting, I found out that 3 of our individuals in recovery had applied to live there, and all of them were denied based on their backgrounds, particularly probably criminal backgrounds. And I know with working with Firelands, who has our housing assistance program funds, they too struggle, whether it's with landlords who have been in the business for a long time with individual units or these newer units. They always struggle with finding a landlord that's willing to look at our individuals with mental health and SUD backgrounds. And so I'm just wondering, with New Housing Ohio, what do you do differently than perhaps some of these other landlords to meet the needs of these individuals and to accept them into your units?
Well, I would argue that the whole reason we exist, I think, is twofold. One is to provide quality housing to folks who often get taken advantage of in rental situations. So it's not unusual for someone to come to us who maybe has an income of, again, $700 a month through disability, and they're paying $650 a month in rent, plus they're paying their utilities, and they've got to find other means to pay for that rent and utilities, and sometimes that can lead to you know, bad decisions to try to make ends meet. And usually, we found this time and time again, they're paying those high rates and living in very tough conditions that, you know, none of us would want any of our loved ones to live in. So that's one of the reasons we exist, is to make sure that we can provide quality, affordable housing that caps their rent at 30% so they can live more comfortably. The second reason is most landlords aren't willing to take the people that we serve. And, you know, I think, as you know, Robin, our mission, you know, has always been to house folks with mental illness and those in recovery. So, you know, we don't deny people based on, you know, criminal history or disability or anything like that. There might be a couple exceptions. You know, if someone has burned down an apartment building before or something, we may look at that a little bit. But by and large, we don't really have, you know, those kinds of restrictions. And, you know, ordinary landlords aren't equipped to deal with some of the things that we deal with on an everyday basis. And so, you know, it just doesn't always work for private landlords like it does for us.
Scott, is the facilities in the city of Astoria, correct, in the city limits?
Yes.
Do you need any city approval? No, really, correct, because there were already apartments before, is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
and we'll have to get all the standard permits and that kind of thing for the rehab, but as far as zoning and that kind of thing goes, yeah, there's no worries there.
Okay, so Scott, right now, New Housing Ohio, when it comes to the board, it is my understanding you are looking for $170,000. Is that the loan? And this
Correct.
is just for the purchase and rehab. This has nothing to do with the subsidy. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this loan is, I think you mentioned a 12-month period, 12 to 18 months.
Yes.
And this is just for you to be able to have the initial financial possibility to close on this location and get started with the renovations. Is that correct?
Correct.
So board members, again, the way I understand this is New Housing Ohio is really looking for us to support them to be able to get this project off the ground initially with $170,000 in a loan. They will be then paid back to the board in 12 to 18 months for them to close on a building and start the rehab of the building. And then later on, once clients are referred to this facility, the subsidy, as Karen mentioned, will be a whole different story, different topic, different funding source from the board. As Scott said, probably initially for sure, and as they progress, hopefully our subsidy will be replaced with other subsidies. Is this correct, Scott, so far?
Yes.
I have another question. This is Karen. You say one person per unit, but what about children? If they're trying to regroup themselves and go back into society, what about their children?
One of the things we focus on, because, you know, often it's not unusual for folks to have lost custody of their children. And through our supportive services, we try to help them gain, you know, that back, along with Firelens and others who are helping with that. But they can absolutely have their children. It's their apartment. They can, they can do with it as they please. So if they do have custody or visitation rights, they are welcome at the building.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions while we still have Scott and Teresa on the line?
Scott, can you just kind of generally describe the location? I see that it's on Barcelona Drive, but how far is that from accessing the hospital or treatment provider or stores?
It's 9 miles from Tiffin, and it's just within the city limits on the Seneca County side. It's in close proximity to the for lack of a better term, I believe it's called the Abuse and Rape Crisis Center. So it's on the, I guess it would be the south side of Fostoria. I mean, there are stores close by. There are things around there that are close by. And, you know, we would be at the property, I would say daily. And, you know, typically we're able to provide some limited transportation and things for folks. You know, it wouldn't be unusual for us to, you know, go to the grocery store once a week or to, you know, to have events, on site, both on site and off site. Some examples that we currently have in apartment buildings that are similar to that is, we have a bike club, at one where a resident, leads that bike club, and once a month we go out and we take a bike ride at a park and we have lunch and that kind of thing. So that's pretty normal. But as far as access to services, you know, I think it's a great location, in terms of where it is in Fostoria. So it's you know, it's pretty good access.
Scott, this is Robin. Just another question. Any concerns with like not in my backyard in that area?
Well, that's always a concern. You know, there's no doubt that is an issue that can come up, and it's an issue we've dealt with, you know, many times. Usually, when people understand what we're doing, that dissipates fairly quickly. You know, there are folks living with mental illness all over the place. There are folks currently living in that building. If you look at, you know, national statistics, 1 in 4 Americans are living with mental illness. So, you know, there are already people living in that building, statistically speaking, living with mental illness. So, you know, this would be a situation where folks would be living there with support. They wouldn't just be in the community, you know, without any kind of support structure. You know, this would be a situation where there would be support available to folks, which I feel beats the alternative of just, you know, having folks living out in the community without support. So we've done pretty well with overcoming the not in my backyard issue.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay, Scott, Teresa, thank you. Scott, our board meeting is next Thursday. We'll make sure to provide you the link, but I'm sure I'm going to be in touch with you probably tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay.
And we'll keep the discussion going.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Shen, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. You guys heard the ask. I know we spent maybe more time than we wanted. I realize it's already 5 o'clock. You heard the ask. It's a $170,000 loan that really NHO wants from us to be able to move this project forward. The reality is that, as Scott mentioned right at the beginning, this has been a priority for us, housing for individuals with mental illness, especially independent living, for a while. It's on our strategic plan, up top on the community plan. As Robin also mentioned, the discussions we had with the various state leaders around a month and a half ago, that continues to be a priority. New Housing Ohio, this is their bread and butter. This is what they do. They do housing. They operate, I believe, in 3 or 4 different counties in Ohio. Obviously, here in Northwest Ohio, we invited them in, as Scott mentioned, around 18 years ago. And we do have they do own 2 mental health group homes in Tiffin, a homeless shelter in Tiffin, as well as a recovery house. So really, this will be an expansion into Fostoria, but it will still be Seneca County. You guys know our relationship with them. There was a little bit rocky right when they opened the cottage, but since then I will say that we really streamlined it, and I feel like Scott is a very honest and direct person when it comes to this. They are not the cheapest housing provider, but he was right on. When it comes to individuals with mental illness, I don't think I would want anybody else to help that client other than New Housing Ohio. They do make all the exceptions that we as board need or Firelands need for the clients that nobody else want to take. They will take it. So when they look at the illness or disability of the client, that is not a barrier with New Housing Ohio. If you guys have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask the question. And now I guess I also want to hear your thoughts about loaning this money to them. We do have the funds available into our reserve. If we loan these funds, we are still within our reserve policy amount, and it will probably all have to come out of Seneca County levy.
Mayor Cho, I have a question.
Go ahead first, Linda.
Okay, thank you. They at the end there, Scott made mention of that residents would have access to services. I guess I'm not sure what he meant by that. Does he mean the location is in proximity to the services, or is there someone that actually lives in the apartment building that assists the residents?
What I think he meant is even now most of their clients. Hey Karen, I think you are unmuted. Just a second. What he meant, even now most of his clients are referred either through Firelands or through the board. And if they are referred through Firelands, usually they have a case manager and they make all the arrangements for them to make sure they get to treatment, make sure they get maybe peer support services. But they will not be designed as a treatment agency on site. They will assist the client to get to various treatment locations or facilities or appointments, I guess. They will assist with that. They will probably assist with driver licenses needed. So more support services is what they will assist, but they will not provide treatment at the location.
Okay, and I guess also as a follow-up to Robin's question, because I was kind of thinking along the same lines. So the people who apply to be residents of this apartment building, do they have to have a referral from us, Firelands, or some agency? Is that part of the process?
They don't have to have it, but we will be, I guess, top priority for this project. So the board plus whatever contract providers we want to give NHO is what the priority will be. It's not any different than the mental health group homes in Tifu now. We do have priority first to make sure our clients are served first. But it's not unusual if they have 1 or 2 beds open in a group home for us to, I guess, maybe allow them, and maybe allow is not the right word, but to allow them to accept a resident, let's say from Erie County. But we wanted to make sure that our clients have first priority. with all three counties. That's correct. It's not just Seneca. It will be all three counties. Any housing project in the three counties will incorporate our entire district.
Sure. I guess I was curious about that because this is, at least the way I understand it, this is or could be permanent housing for some of these individuals. It's not a transitional spot, correct?
That's correct. It could be, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Karen? You're muted now. Okay. We can hear Karen now. Go ahead now, Karen.
Can you hear me now, Mircea?
Yes.
Okay. My question was, is if we decide to do the loan, does that necessarily mean that we have to do the subsidy issue as well?
I don't think the two things should necessarily be mixed, but by us doing the loan is kind of showing support for this project to start in our board district. So I think it will be really hard for us to do the loan, and then when they want the subsidy for us to say no, just because that again, I really think they need that at least to get it up and going when they accept new clients into the facility.
But they can't put a time frame on that subsidy though, right? Because they have to apply for federal funding after that?
Correct. They will apply for other subsidies to replace our board subsidy, and the goal is really probably in the first 2 years of operations, all 18 to be replaced with a different subsidy and not through the board. What I'm trying to say, if they successfully do this, we will have the 18 unit location in our board district, but it doesn't mean we have to commit on assisting them long term. And the 170,000, Karen, those funds supposed to come back to the board. So 170,000, it's a loan. So we know really the ideal case is we don't invest our funds into the capital project as the funds are coming back to us, but we will have to invest funds into the subsidies. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I was just kind of curious how long that was going to be, because you really couldn't give us a kind of a, is it going to be 1 or 2 years that we help subsidize, or will it be 10? You know.
I mean, honestly, we can always negotiate or tell them, hey, this is what we're planning to do for the next 12 months or the next 6 months. We don't have to commit forever, but I think we probably will have to commit at least at the beginning just to get them up and going if gonna move forward with this project. I'm not sure if he can tell us exactly how long it will take, and I'll give you an example. Ohio Mass had a capital budget every year since 2008, since the recession. 2020 is the first year they didn't approve a capital budget yet. They don't have anything approved yet. So due to COVID-19, some of these things can get in the way of normal practice for them, I guess. So I don't think he can commit and say, oh, I need your help only for 24 months and then I'm on my own, just because we don't know yet how this COVID-19 will then impact some of the funding coming down to local communities in the future.
Right, I get that, and that's kind of my concern as to the length of time they'll need to be subsidized.
And I do think that if you feel you guys more comfortable at that time, as he said, probably in February, for us to put a contract with them where we limit the subsidy to X amount of months or years, up to X amount per unit.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Yep.
Mircea, since this would be a loan, Are you thinking our contract would indicate at 18 months the money is expected to be paid back, and then some language on what if it's not? I mean, Scott seems pretty confident that he's going to get the money to repay it, but what would we put in place to protect us in the event he doesn't?
That is correct. I mean, Robin, I think would be very. It will be a contractual agreement. You write 18 months for the loan to be paid back, and is no different than you going to the doctor, having insurance, and refuse to pay whatever your premium might be. So I don't think we don't want to get there. I think they have is in their best interest to pay us back, as we already fund some of their other projects. Correct. So they already rely on the board for some other ongoing projects, such as the cottage. Now I can see that worst case scenario, something could happen with state and federal budget due to COVID, and it could happen, I guess, that they don't have all the money to pay us back or on time, I guess. But I think it will be on their best interest to continue to work with us for a loan repayment. I hope we don't have to go through the legal process to obtain the money back from this organization. Again, another good thing about this organization, it's a very well-established organization in Ohio, one of the top housing providers in the state. They probably own 75 plus properties across the state. I don't think that $170,000 loan is something they want to, I guess, not follow through. Again, I think worst case scenario, we might have to work with them on a repayment back plan, in case some of these grants that they talk about they won't be able to obtain. Any other comments? As you heard Scott, I mean, I really think he's waiting for an answer by the board meeting time. So that's why I wanted to bring him to present to you guys as together. Are you guys a yay or a nay? Jimmy?
Do we have the money in reserve? I guess $170,000 to do this. You say there is, correct?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it. If we have it, I mean, we're putting it back into the community, and we're going to get it back hopefully within 18 months. Hopefully, have maybe a 1% interest on it. Gain a little bit off it. But yeah, I don't have a problem if we have the money for the clients here.
Anybody else?
This is Celinda. I guess my thoughts, I guess this is something that we've been talking about, something that we've been looking for a while. We know new housing. I mean, like you said too, I think as far as doing business with them, they're a known commodity. I'm not worried about that. My concern, I guess along the same lines that Karen, just we have to, I guess, look to you, Mircea, to know that these times are somewhat uncertain, and we don't know. I guess there's not the assurance of where the money is coming from as much as it has been in the years past. But I think that if you're confident that this is a pretty easy decision for us, it does provide access to housing that we've been looking for some time. So I do like that piece of it. As long as it works out financially, then I say it's a go.
It is building capacity. It is building housing capacity in our board district, no doubt about it. During these uncertain times, if it's one provider you want to work with and has the expertise, is probably New Housing Ohio. Would we maybe, as you mentioned, not be able to obtain all the grants? It could happen, but again, during these times, if it's one provider I want to do business with when it comes to housing, it will be them. So I'll give them that. So we do have the money. Every January I'll give you a fiscal report We're gonna talk next about reconciliation. I still think we are in a. I will not let us not be in a good financial situation. Let's put it that way. I will just not. I will not bring this project up if it will not be one of the top priorities. We've been talking about this for years. We just didn't have anything to bring forward. As Scott said, we've been having these discussions for a number of years, going back and forth and meeting with him. So here we are. Unfortunately, we started this discussion way pre-COVID, but again, COVID, is hitting us, this pandemic. But I will agree with Jimmy, and I'll agree with you, Celinda. We do have the money, and if we want to follow our priorities, we should go ahead and approve the loan. Any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna move on to the agenda just because we spent 45 minutes. Was very good discussion. I know Dean needs to leave at 5:30. Dean, that's fine. The next, hopefully not gonna take that much discussion. Next item on agenda is fiscal year 2020 reconciliation amounts. And for all of you guys to know what that means is our fiscal year 2020 contracts ended June 30th. Okay, we allocate all the money to various providers. There are some providers that didn't spend their contract. What that means, we have money sitting there that some providers didn't spend. The only way for us to avoid sending the money back to the state is we also have providers that overexpended above the amount we approve in a contract. Let me give you an example. Sandusky County Task, let's say we approve $400,000 in their contract. They already spent all $400,000, and by the way, they spend another $80,000 above the $400,000. So usually in October we do a reconciliation that if some agency didn't spend their money and some agencies spend it above, we try to balance our books so we don't have to send any more money back to the state and keep the money in the local community for the organizations we already have a contract with. So by saying that, we have a few organizations or providers that would like to reconcile. Beam and Henry for legal guardianship services, we have $622.50. You don't have to write this down. I'll put it Friday in my draft motions. With Firelands, out of the GRF 421 mental health line, $92,974.58. With Firelands for from 5TZO Community Investment Funds, $327.95. With Firelands from Criminal Justice and Behavioral Health Linkage allocation, $3.18. With Sandusky County Task out of ATP, $1,633.41. Sandusky County Task out of SAPT Block Grant Treatment Funds, $52,000. And Oriana House out of SAPT Block Grant Treatment Funds, $54,159.09. If we pay these amounts to these agencies, we'll then be able to reconcile or balance all of our fiscal year 2020 state and federal funds to zero. In a nutshell, that's what reconciliation is. Any questions? One thing I do want to mention, the numbers I read you tonight, by the time the board meeting comes, it could slightly change if Tanya's telling me, hey, I got another invoice and we got to move some things around. But we don't think that will happen, but it might. You're going to see this draft motion Friday with your email and package.
Use it or lose it.
Any questions? If not, I'm moving on. Meeting dates. In your email, I send you guys the calendar. In the past, I used to give you guys two options, and we used to debate it for 45 minutes. So now I gave you only one option. So this is the... Unless you really don't like it and want to change it, that's fine. One thing that we didn't add on a calendar, again, is standard that we always been doing. But one thing that we didn't add the board training, and I tell you why. Just because again, we don't know how COVID gonna play. We don't know if we're gonna get in person versus WebEx and all that stuff. I decided to just put TBD, and we can decide later into once we start the year when we're gonna do the training. We might do it like we're gonna do it this year, maybe where we cancel one of the committee meetings and combine it with the other one, and do a training at the other committee meeting, similar to what we plan to do here next month. Other than that, as you guys see, July is off. December and November are kind of mixed together between the committee and the board meeting due to holidays. Any questions, concerns? Now, one thing I do want to mention is we are allowed by law to meet through webinars through December 1st of 2020. So I'm assuming in the next 6 weeks they will have to change the law. I'm not sure how they're going to change the law. We might have to continue with virtual meetings for a while. We might be able to get in person. I'm not sure. We have been meeting at 4:30 p.m. for, I don't know, maybe 25 years. But if for whatever reason you guys don't like the time, now is the time to speak up. No questions, no discussions. I will present this to the program committee, and if they also agree and don't have no questions or concern, then we're going to propose this in a motion. Robin, quarterly credit card report.
Okay. The board has a policy on credit card usage that requires us to review our credit card usage on a quarterly basis. And so the board has credit cards for the board office and then also for Lotus Recovery House. Tanya Hemmer, our fiscal manager, prepared our report for July 1st through September 30th of this year. And it was 33 pages this time of reporting, and it was sent to Dean Bliss as chairperson for the admin committee for his reviews. There was a total of $507.65 spent under the general purpose card, and then a total of $2,574.87 for Lotus. We were approaching the end of our SOAR 1.0 grant that helps to cover expenses for the Lotus House, so we knew our expenses would be a little bit higher as we wrapped up the end of the grant year. We'll also see a little bit of that fall into our next report because some of those charges came in on our credit card in October. There was nothing unusual to highlight otherwise. And as I mentioned, Dean received a copy, but if anybody would like to see a copy of the 33 pages, it includes the credit card statements and all our supporting documents such as receipts and any communication we had with paying the cards.
Any questions? Dean, did you receive the report, correct? Okay. All right. This will not be a motion, but we have to mention it. If you want the full report, please just let Robin, myself, or Tanya know. We're going to move on to the next project. This is another good one you should be proud of. We have been talking about it for approximately 2 years about collaborative projects. We need to collaborate with other local, public, or private entities for the good of the entire community. And around a year and a half ago, we started the collaborative project with the Children's Services in all 3 counties, the board, and Children's Keeper. At that time, it really was first started in Sandusky County, but then it moved into Seneca and Wyandotte. Really, all of our 3 counties had major issues with placement of children. They didn't have enough foster care homes. The cost for county commissioners were through the roof because they had to send all these children out of county into these private homes. So we started a pilot project, as I said, first in Sandusky County for the first 12 months. That the outcomes were just amazing. They were able to cut their cost in half. They were able to increase their foster homes, local foster homes, like triple them in a 12-month period. So then we started the project actually January 1 of this year in Seneca and Wyandotte County. And we have regular meetings with DJFS and Children's Services to see how's it going. And I'll tell you that now all 3 counties have more foster homes than they need. So the project actually really met all of their outcomes and goals. Is just a great thing to see happening. Just to give you an example, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but just an idea, Wyandotte County had 1 foster care home in the county, and they had 2 other homes, I believe, in Crawford County, they were contracting out with. it is projected that by the end of this calendar year, they're gonna have at least 4, if not 5, foster care homes within the county. So they went from 1 to 4 or from 1 to 5 in a 12-month period. So everybody's really happy with Children's Keeper. Their contract ends December 31st. We are really the hub, I guess. We are the administrative agent and the hub. So we hold the contract. We put some of our money in, and then Children's Services is paying us some money for us to contract with Children's Keeper. We all discussed and we're planning to amend the contract to extend the period for another 6 months and get this contract on a state fiscal year. So what we all agree as the 4 public entities is to ask you guys to allow to amend the contract from January 1st of 2021 to June 30th of 2021 for a 6-month period for a total amount of $35,000. Half of that will be paid to us by Children's Services in the 3 counties, and we'll match the other half probably to state funds that we have unallocated. The goals of Children Keepers will change a little bit, and really what the big goal, or I guess the dream for everybody, is for us to implement and develop treatment foster homes within the board district. So right now in the 3 counties, we don't have any treatment foster homes, and the goal is to develop that. What really that means is to take the most needy children that nobody want to touch, then they have to place in these group homes. They sometimes have to pay $500, $600, $700 a day. We are hoping to develop a few local treatment homes that will accept these children within our board district. Also, the plan is for Children's Keeper to expand kinship and support services to grandparents raising children in the 3 counties. To continue to obviously maintain current foster homes that he already developed. One thing that he made us aware, you sometimes license a home, a foster care home, but then you don't give them the children. They might fall off your radar, or they might move in to accept children from other counties across the state of Ohio. And really, those are the main 3 areas I want to put in amendment, in addition to expand it for 6 months. And I really believe next state fiscal year, the number 1 priority will be again for him to develop these treatment homes, foster care treatment homes within Seneca, Sandusky, and Wyandotte counties. Any questions?
No, Mirch, I have to jump off here now.
Okay.
I apologize. Can I catch up with you maybe tomorrow?
Yes.
On the rest of the items?
Yes. All right, Dean. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you, sir. Take care, everybody.
You too. I think it's a good idea. Really do.
All right. So this will be a motion, a 6-month contract extension, if you guys are okay with it. Jimmy saying yes. I see Celinda saying yes. Okay. The rest are really no motions, are just some discussions. The first one, we're just trying to get ahead. Last board meeting, I did a presentation about Robert's rules and a little bit of Ohio Sunshine Law. Then the day after the board meeting, I start reading our bylaws again and again and again. And I say it would be a great time for us to just update it a little bit. And when you look at our bylaws, which I emailed them to you guys, it requires that these rules might be amended by majority vote of all members of the board, provided that at least 14 days notice in writing to all members of the board shall be given. So we are not planning to act during the October meeting. We are planning to act during the December board meeting, so everybody has plenty of time to review them. Robin and I worked on a few revisions, but in my email Friday, which again I can email again, there was the current version of the bylaws as well as the proposed draft. We're really just cleaning up a few things. For example, we changed Article 3 regarding Board of Directors. We list there that we are a 14 board member, volunteer board member. Some boards in Ohio are 18. talks about oath of office and how that should be taken prior or at the first regular board meeting. Talks about the appointing authority and how many years a board member can serve, and so on. Talks about Ohio ethics law. So we just really, there are not any major changes. We just clean it up. One section that I really want everybody to be very familiar with is section 4 when it comes to board meetings, regarding the open meetings, the meeting calendar, with the one we just discussed, regular meeting, special meeting, quorum, motions. That's really a very good one when it comes to motions and how we should conduct motions at our board. Voting as well, public comments. As I mentioned at the last training, both Robert's rules and Ohio Sunshine Law, we don't have to allow public comments during a regular board meeting. We don't have to. There are just specific things that we should, which is the tax budget, but we can if we have it in our bylaw. So again, with chairperson approval, a visitor can make a comment not to exceed 5 minutes, as you can see there. Other than that, again, we just clean it up. If you have any questions, you have time now. You have time to call or email me, and we'll bring it up again during the November committee meeting if we have to. We're not planning to act on it or approve it until the December board meeting. Any questions? Okay. I do want to talk a little bit. I know Dean jumped off the line, and maybe we should talk about it while he was on the line. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with what's happening in Fremont and Sandusky County, but there was I guess a group of individuals. I think that's the best definition of them. It's a group of individuals that is trying to lure individuals on various chat lines to meet with them. They are acting as underage individuals, I guess, and they're trying to attract these community members to various locations, and they are videotaping them. And then maybe the right word is exposing them on Facebook, YouTube, or whatever. Look at them, they try to meet with a 12-year-old boy or a 14-year-old boy or whatever the case might be. Well, the reason, I mean, you can imagine why law enforcement is involved, correct? I'm not going to get into all of their details. If you have questions, I can answer. But the reason we are involved, we had an emergency meeting, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, with the City of Fremont leaders and the Sheriff's Office and the County Prosecutor and all that. And they really wanted the board behind on linking people to treatment, people who've been traumatized, people who experienced various things in their past. And obviously, I say absolutely, yeah, we'll help when it comes to treatment and all that, trauma-informed care. We will be right there behind you guys. One thing that you should all know, it is projected, and the reason I'm saying it's projected is I don't think it can be confirmed, this last one, but according to the city law director and the county prosecutor, at least 2, if not 3 of the individuals that were, I guess, exposed in the last 6-8 months to this have completed suicide immediately after that. And there's really a concern of us as a board. We know that one of the individual was a Seneca County resident, the other one was a Sandusky County resident, and I believe they are waiting for toxicology results or from Lucas County on the 3rd individual. So I guess long story short, suicides are spiking in our board district because of this group of individuals. I will tell you that the community, well, I haven't talked with the community, but again, according to law enforcement, the community appears that majority of the community is supporting the actions of this group, actually really supporting the actions of this group, and are really, I guess, opposing law enforcement from not working with them. That's a long story why law enforcement cannot legally work with them. But I just wanted to give you an update on that. I know they work on a press release, and they list us as a mental health board as a treatment resource in the press release. We are not really in a press release for anything else. They'll be for them to decide. But as you heard, Chief Bliss talked earlier in the meeting, there's one police chief that is refusing to, I guess, agree with the other chiefs and the sheriff on the practices. Any questions?
It's been going on for a while.
It's been going on, I believe, for 6 to 8 months or something like that. Okay. If you have questions, I can answer. It's more legality than anything like that. It's more how a county prosecutor sees a violation of the law or not, and what law enforcement feels comfortable to act upon. But I'm going to move on if you guys don't have any questions. I do want to follow up back to the bylaws, and I thought that D might be on, but maybe I can mention this during, well, I think I have to mention it today. At the last board meeting, again, we did a training about Robert's rules in Ohio Sunshine Law. And I know at the last meeting, we mixed a few motions together to save time. And I did talk with some board members one-on-one, and some of them wanted to see do we truly need to do roll call at every motion. Okay, and a few months ago, actually a year ago, I met a gentleman that conducted public records trainings, and actually he is now working for the AG office, actually developing the Ohio Sunshine Law. So he's the director of open government, Mark. And since then I've been in touch with him, and I asked him some questions just in the last few months. One of the questions was a local public entity that had published in a newspaper, hey, we have a board meeting coming up at this time on Monday night. If you want to know how to get the Zoom link, email us. And I emailed Mark, and I thought that organization is violating open meeting law by asking people to email them to find out the link or the phone number. Mark kind of agreed with me, but he said due to COVID, it's so much gray area right now that, kind of everybody is doing what they think is best. Then I also email him, I say, Mark, I know there are public entities that don't do roll call. Do we need to do a roll call at every motion? Can we just move in quicker? And this is his answer. He said that as a general rule, which we already did, any substantive matter, everything that's like a fiscal resolution, should be a roll call, which we already do for the resolutions, for accepting levy rates, we already do roll call. He said everything that's administrative procedure, such as approving minutes, adjourning the meeting, you can just do all in favor. However, he said that his best practice is that if we are virtually, to make sure that nobody's disconnected, that we continue with roll call. He also said that if you have all your board members attending the meeting via the webinar, then they can just raise their hand. And if you can see everybody raising their hand, you can count it, and then you don't have to do a roll call. Let me give an example. We have a motion on the table to accept a contract with Fallens for $1 million. And then I can ask, all in favor, please raise your hand. And if I see, I have 14 board members, if I see 13 hands, I say, okay, we have 13-4. Appears that we have one either abstaining or opposing the motion. And then maybe I call on Celinda. I say, hey, Celinda, are you a no? And she might say, yeah, I'm a no, or I'm on abstain. And then we move on from there, motion passed. The issue is that if you have people that we can see, and maybe they are on the line, will be hard again to do by raising hands. So with one of the board members that I talked, I did promise that I will bring this up just in preparation for the October board meeting. If you guys want us to speed it up even more, there are motions that we can do all in favor, but will probably require everybody to have the camera on. I been in discussions with Mark about many things, and as I said, he's kind of drafting even best practices when it comes to these virtual meetings. And one of the best practices that members are on a camera. Another one is that the camera is on, not just audio is on. So things like that. So another best practice is that before you talk, you raise your hand, and then the chairperson say, Celinda, go ahead. So I can share some of those best practices that I've been in communication with Mark, with all of you guys, and I think that if you guys are willing to implement them, or we think we can go ahead with all in favor for most of the motions. But if we don't have everybody on the same page, I think we probably want to continue with roll call after each motion. Thoughts?
I agree with motion that everybody should have a roll call. I mean, even on the regular practices, you can ask him, but anything that's financial, money's involved, you're supposed to have a roll call, even though we've never really stuck to that. But I think in Robert's rules, and this gentleman will also confirm that. And we had the same question brought up, and so we do roll call on everything. But the big thing is, they said on something like this, you almost got to have this program taped, so there is a public record that it was, versus mere just saying, yes, we have enough. So it's a question. Maybe you want to say if it's taped, then you got a record of it being hands up. And that. So that's what we got, back the other way. So I require roll call on everyone we do, and we also always in the past had to have roll call on every financial
matter motion.
we had. Yeah. So that, I'm just saying that's what we did. Not to say they have to here, but that's the instruction we had from the health department. So I don't know if you taped it.
I think, honestly, if we continue to, I try to, I guess, reduce the number of motions and combine some of them, I think we'll be all right with roll call. The concern is not that not everybody can be on the camera. The concern is that we might have board members that have low internet connection, and sometimes for you to be able to speak or hear, you might have to disconnect your camera and just keep the audio on. So for those reasons, I will have to agree with Jimmy, at least for a while.
We combine things together as some of them to get past some emotions, but we kind of lump them together the same topics.
Correct. Yes,
That's all.
Yeah, correct. It stays the same topics. I mean, correct. I will try to correct. Yes.
Yeah, it just makes it easier. If we always ask, do you mind if we combine them? If they say no, we want this pulled out, then we do so. Then we vote on it separately.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna keep it for now as roll call. I will mention this to the program committee as well on Wednesday. Two more items. I will jump to the last one first. We've been talking at the beginning of the meeting about housing. Now I'm going to talk probably about the most important need that we have is really shortage of master level licensed therapists in our board district. We really tried in the last 2-3 years so many projects with our providers, especially when it comes to crisis services. And we tried so many projects with Fallens about mobile crisis and doing crisis services, at the client's home and trying to do all these things, doing assessments outside of your office location. And really all comes down to we just don't have the staffing. We worked on bonuses for the staff. They cover 24/7, bonuses on the staff who are on call during Christmas or who are on call in the middle of the night or who have to travel, you name it. But they still continue, and it's not just Fallens, it's really all community mental health providers across the state. They really struggle with staff. And one good thing that I actually like about Fallens is they are not cutting corners when it comes to the license of the individuals. There are some communities that I think they are a little bit, but Fallens will not cut corners, will not put a peer to go out to a home by themselves and conduct an assessment or conduct a survey or whatever. They really want to have the licensed professionals do the professional work. One of the one of the projects that I mentioned to you guys 4 or 5 years ago was actually at that time we were trying to work with University of Toledo Medical Center to see, and this is not a foreign concept, to see if we can recruit students right from while they are still in school. Recruit students, maybe help with some loan repayment, and they have a commitment from them that they will stay and working within the board district. There was really discussions about psychiatrists. Now discussion goes back to, again, master level therapists. And we realized that through Heidelberg University, we have a potential local partner where we can restart this discussion. I talked with Robin about it. I talked with Fallens about it. And I even talked with Harry about it a little bit. And I have more meetings coming up. Actually, the next one is tomorrow, just to see if we can develop a project where we can identify students while they are in school, assist them with internship if needed, but then also have a commitment from them to work not just in a board district, but to work for a community mental health provider, including crisis services. And the reason I'm telling you that is, actually, let me back off. The main shortage is for community mental health providers and crisis services. I don't want to say that there's a shortage across the entire board district, because we do have many licensed therapists. They choose to run or operate their own private practice. They are open from 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, and that's it. And I don't think that's the main shortage I'm talking about. I'm talking about our clients, the most difficult clients in and out of hospitalization, in and out of jail, at the state hospital, crisis services in the middle of the night. That is what I'm talking about, where we cannot recruit or retain licensed therapists for these services. So while I have no motion on the table or anything yet, this is one of the projects that I do want to bring forth to you probably in upcoming months as something we really want to work and develop, maybe with some of the local universities.
Sounds good.
Robin, anything you want to add?
I would just add that in the past, Firelands has been successful in tapping into loan forgiveness programs where during my tenure there, they were really successful in recruiting therapists and maintaining them retaining them through these grants because so much, if not all, of the therapist student loans got paid back if they committed and stayed on the job. Unfortunately, there's so many hoops to that anymore that Firelands can just no longer really recruit or retain staff with that. So I have seen a different version of this work and work well. So that's partly why we want to bring it back and do something maybe different and locally, because it can work. Money talks, and student loans, as you know, can be very high. And for therapists, it's no different. So I think they'd have people that they could recruit and retain with these funds.
And this is a little bit related to the last subject. I'm sitting here thinking when Robin is talking. You guys do know our progress, I guess, through the last few years. And one of our major things was make sure we pass and keep levies in all 3 counties, and we get to a financial, stability that we feel comfortable. And I think we will stay there. I mean, the goal is to stay there. But you should also recall that I said we're going to take on some big projects that we always put on a back burner. We just put them on a back burner before because we didn't have the funds. And it's not just about money, but it's about building capacity within our behavioral health system. So now I'm going to the last project here, and this is more specific to Seneca County. We worked really hard to build a very good prevention system within Seneca County, and we brought in numerous state and federal grants into Seneca County, both prevention and recovery supports. And we started with Fallens providing those prevention services, and then we realized that really that wasn't one of their top priorities, so we moved on working with the prevention specialists through Prevention Connections, which was a LLC, a small LLC providing prevention services. And when we look at the capacity and sustainability what we have in Seneca County, we really don't have it. It's a one-man show that it's helping us with delivering and implementing prevention services. So when I talked to Robin, I said we need to develop something similar to Fallens for treatment into the prevention world and recovery support world. We work with Love Faith Ministries for various recovery support services, but again, it's a small entity that if something happens to them, we just don't have the continuum of care. We just don't have it. Same thing with the prevention. We work with a small entity that does everything we tell them to do. Their prevention credentials, but if something happens to that particular person, our whole prevention system collapses. And I know that person is maybe 3 years from retirement, maybe 4 years from retirement. And I talked to Charla and to Robin, we need to develop a system for prevention recovery supports in Seneca County that is here above and beyond one individual. And I'll be honest, some of the state and federal grants, we had a hard time obtaining them or bringing the funds to the community just because we don't have that large nonprofit that has all the policies, procedural, and fiscal oversight in place that we need. So we don't really need a motion for this now, but I am planning to develop or to work either with an existing nonprofit or to develop a new nonprofit in Seneca County, really for prevention and recovery support services, something that we build the capacity and sustainability that we can have around for the years to come. I try to explain people, it's as simple as our board. If something happens to me tomorrow, you guys as a board has the bylaws, the policies, the procedures, everything in place to continue to conduct business and continue to focus on the same priorities. Well, we don't have that really for prevention and recovery supports in Seneca County today. And that is where we want to get to. Robin?
I think you did a good job with that, Mirch. I don't have anything to add.
I have no motion proposed here, but as you can see just today, we have kind of 3 major projects we're working on with New Housing Ohio and the housing, and with Heidelberg, which I don't have all the details to bring a motion proposed to you, as well as this nonprofit development for Seneca County. The reason I'm saying Seneca County, Sandusky and Wyandotte has that already developed through a different public entity. So I think they're moving forward just well. We don't have to change things there, but we have to change things in Seneca County. Last thing I do want to mention is, if you guys recall, I believe in April we passed a fiscal resolution to stop investing anything into capital projects as well as any raises for staff, employees, and the whole 9 yards. And I should have probably brought this up earlier, but this could conflict a little bit with New Housing Ohio if we loan those funds, so somebody can look at it and say, hey, you're investing into capital, but some other people can say, hey, this is just a loan. We're not committing this money only for a short period of time, and we're expecting the money to come back to us. Questions, thoughts? How do you guys feel about that? I mean, in reality, with the majority vote, you guys can always terminate or amend the resolution. At that time, due to COVID and uncertainty of the fiscal year 2021 budget, we say, hey, let's freeze any expansion, which I'm already bringing a bunch of expansions in front of you guys. How do you guys feel about that?
We froze the salaries, isn't that correct?
We froze the salaries, correct. So actually, since that time, I think all board employees had an evaluation already completed, but we freeze everything when it comes to board employees, and they know. And I think the resolutions was well intended. Pretty much say, hey, don't start any new projects right now until we know what's going on. But maybe one error or mistake that we made, maybe we had it too long when we implemented it. I think we were really concerned about fiscal year 2021 budget, where we got a little bit of cuts, but actually I just received information today that those projected cuts going to come back to us actually by the end of this week. So I believe I shared this with you guys. I think the concern in Columbus is that we're going to see more cuts next year. So I'm not sure if that resolution the time frame on it, maybe we accepted it for too long, I guess, for a 12-month period. I'm not sure if we needed that. But I'm not sure if you guys consider a loan same as a capital investment. Usually when we invest in capital, it's a one-time payment from us to the provider for the facility, money they will never see back again.
It's not capital, in my opinion. Because it is returnable.
Correct.
I mean, capital isn't typically.
I think that will be my argument too. Again, every capital project we invested before was, we knew is a one-time non-refundable for this to be up and running, regardless of if we're going to fund the operations or not in the future. And we invested that into some facilities that we're not funding operations anymore. Anybody else? Well, I think through the motion, I want to make sure that the motion will clearly read a repayment loan within 18-month period. Then I think that will be really our argument if somebody is to question our April resolution. Again, I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Celinda. I was just curious when we passed that and it said we weren't going to take on capital projects. Was it worded that we wouldn't start a capital project? Because I think this, like you said, since this is a loan and it's going to be repaid, I guess I'm looking at this a little different than a true outlay for a capital project. Because I know we're spending money, but we're getting the money back. So right now, I guess I don't see it as a straight up expense for a capital project. Do we have the leeway, I guess is what I'm asking, in the way we pass that resolution?
He's reading through it right now.
Well, really, the last paragraph of the resolution actually stated for us to conserve funds for the most essential and needy behavioral health services. Well, this actually falls into that category.
Right, it is a service.
Yes.
Providing a new service that wasn't available before, but it's not a capital investment.
Yeah, this is Luke. I mean, fundamentally, accounting practices, if it's a loan, it's not a capital expenditure. Right. So it's outside of the scope of any kind of halt on, capital projects or capital expenses. I think we can talk around. I mean, technically, it's not. So I think it would be pretty easy to talk around it if anybody would raise a question. Mm-hmm. Now, whether or not it's most essential, et cetera, is another discussion. But capital expenditure, it is not.
And I don't think we even have to use the word capital in a motion.
No, I hope not.
Right.
Correct. We just use,
18 months. Returnable assistant loan.
Correct. Assisting loan for independent living services for behavioral clients. Correct. Right. Yes. Okay.
I think that would be clear.
All right. All right. We are at the bottom of the agenda. Any questions? Did you guys read over? I talked with Jimmy prior to the meeting. He said he was reading over the Ohio ethics examples I emailed. Did any of you guys read over those? Only Jimmy, I guess, did his homework. All of you guys have a B, except Jimmy.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry. I couldn't hear what you said, Mircea.
After the last board meeting, I believe the same night, I emailed all of you guys a package. I was doing the training, and then we were talking about various Ohio ethics examples or ruling that happened in the state. Some was actually pertaining to our board when Jay Meyer used to be our board attorney, and some were more recent. I just wanted to give you guys some examples about some of the rulings. Okay. Any questions? I do wish we'll be face to face, but it is what it is. Can't change it yet. All right, we'll combine the motions that we can combine that are in within kind of the same topic, and hopefully again won't take too much time to go through them. I will give you guys an update during my report. Next month we'll do that ethics training during one of the committee, and we'll combine the committee meetings. I believe Monday everybody comes together, and Wednesday we have the training in November. Last questions? Ohio State gonna go undefeated?
I hope so.
All right. I hope so. I hope they play Alabama in the playoffs. All right, guys. 6:02 p.m. I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you very much for joining tonight.